Hello, I am Rob.
And I'm Rob.
And welcome to Impossible Mission. I did it wrong in the previous take, and I was a bit sing-songy in my hello there. So what we talk about this week on the show, Rob?
Obviously, we're talking about the next generation consoles, and I can hear everyone going, yay, they're going to finally talk about the next generation consoles, and you know what? Yeah, we are. We're going to talk about, well, they haven't really performed well so far, have they?
People get caught up in the hype of getting a launch console, ignoring the fact that you're basically troubleshooting the early editions of the console for the company. So you're getting all the bugs, all the broken tech, all the weird stuff.
It's that fear of missing out thing that I really don't understand and have never understood. The smart cookie always waits before they buy a new piece of technology because obviously there's all those bugs to work out. You're dealing with very, very, very cutting edge stuff. I mean, Sony's new hard drive. I said there's going to be problems with the new hard drive, and what's been happening? There's been reports of, consoles bricking for no reason, and there's been reports of just glitches and random stuff that really shouldn't be happening with technology levels. And that's not just on the PlayStation 5, that's on the Xbox Series X and S as well.
Yeah, I wasn't going to pick you up on that. It was more to do with one of the big selling points. This is what we're talking about this week. The big selling point of the PlayStation 5 in particular is, besides the SSD, which they both have, that seems to be like where they're going with the industry, it's the controller.
Yeah.
The controller is built around this concept of increasing immersion in the game. I mean, people who got it will already know when you're walking across sand in the Astro. I called it Astro Fighter in a previous episode. I don't know why that was in my head. Astro Fighter is a weird Japanese anime about, well,
Astro Fighter Sunred is amazing.
That's not what Astro is. Astro, whatever. I forgot what it's called.
Astro's Playground or something like that?
Astro's Playroom. But yeah, you feel him when it walks over metal. The controller feels different when he walks over sand, and when it rains. It has the haptics in the controller.
Please, sir, I have a question.
But that's part one. Part two is the triggers. You can enhance the triggers with these little cogs that are inside the controller. So if you push R2 or L2 back really far, you can see the sort of the mechanism in there. And that makes it gives you tension. So the classic one that they said in every advertising campaign, every possible opportunity they can, it gives you tension when you pull the bow back. Like a bow is in every game. So that's what the setup, that's the immersion that the PlayStation 5 is selling.
Please, sir, I have a question.
So the child at the back of the class with the weird glasses, he's got a question. Shoot.
Yes, sir. So when you're talking about footsteps, but you're using the controller with your hands, so I don't understand. How are you supposed to feel the footsteps with your hands when they're on your feet? What's going on, sir?
That's just being really anal, child. Go in the corridor and think about what you've done.
You understand what I mean, though, right?
And then the rest of the class laughs because I said the word anal.
When you're talking about immersion, right? To me, I can understand. Okay. Yes, okay, you feel a vibration or you feel whatever when you're walking across stuff. It adds to you being involved in the game because it's transmitted through the body and your brain basically goes, oh, look, that's matching up to the images that are on the screen. And so it forms a form of immersion. Yeah, fine. But
I'll be honest, just on that point, I can't remember feeling any vibrations in any game for a long time because I'm so bored of it. It doesn't mean anything to me anymore.
Yeah, that's my point, right? We've had rumble packs and all sorts of stuff since the PlayStation 2 era, right? Nintendo 64 had the rumble pack, Dreamcast had a rumble pack.
The Switch had this sort of haptics as well, I think, in some iteration.
And my point is that all these haptics are great as a novelty, but ultimately they don't really help that much.
Also, it's ignoring the fact of who it isolates, because that sort of thing, some people have problems with accessibility as far as playing games, and I imagine that sort of thing, like the tension on the triggers and this vibration, is going to alienate a lot of people who have problems with accessibility.
Yeah, but I mean, the main thing
that's besides the point, though. That is besides the point.
It is. The thing is, if you look at it from a certain perspective, there are two main things that actually make a game immersive, right? Number one is the story. There is still no greater graphics engine than your imagination. which is why people still read books.
Nerds.
Oh, hey,
I'm
still read
joking. I'm joking.
If that wasn't the case, then consoles of video games would literally have taken over the world of books as well, right? We wouldn't have authors, we'd have video game scriptwriters.
Which I think they could do a few more of, but that's another topic.
But, yeah. So the story is one of the things that you get into when you're playing a game. And at that point, stuff like haptics and that, you don't care.
It's a distraction at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And it's a distraction that when I get mine, I'm going to turn it off. I'll have a go, I'll play Astro, and I'll think, ooh, that's fun. Now, how do I turn it off?
I mean, one of the things that I saw about the controller, about the PS5 controller, was that the sound can travel from left to right or right to left on the controller.
Well, yeah? The haptics, sound haptics, whatever you want to say.
Yeah, the audio haptics, whatever you want to call them. I thought, but if you're wearing headphones, you'll get that anyway.
And that's the 3D sound, which is another aspect of the immersion that they're going to go with. But, sir, you're the teacher now.
Okay.
Isn't all sound 3D?
Yeah.
When you put headphones on?
Basically, yeah. I mean, if you're wearing headphones, then, yeah, all sound is basically 3D, because it's coming at you from multiple directions. I mean, if you want it to be total 3D, then, you know, your headphones would look very, very, very weird, because you wouldn't just have them over your head, you'd have two little headphones underneath the main headphones, then you'd have another one at the back of your skull, and then you'd have a little one just at the front there, just on your forehead, and that would give you full skull-based 3D surround sound.
Well, your vision was much different than mine. I was picturing just a massive sock over someone's head, and all of that sock was a headphone.
Effectively, yeah.
Oh, well, my image was a bit more graphic, I guess.
I just made it a lot more cyberpunkish than you did.
I just
you went with you went with standard look. I'm gonna go rob a bank.
Yeah, but this so far it feels like we're kind of given the business to Sony and the PlayStation 5, which isn't our intention at all.
No, it's not. I mean, the question we wanted to ask with this was, especially in light of current sales figures for the PlayStation 5 and the Series X and S. Because they haven't been performing well. And I know that Sony has sold 4 times as many consoles in Japan as the Series X, but we expected that. It's Microsoft versus Sony in Japan, Sony's home ground, you know? But the fact that Sony hasn't performed... I mean, Sony's had the worst launch in Japan. It's had the worst launch in Japan since the PlayStation 2.
There's other circumstances there, like, you know,
COVID is a reason, yeah.
The big elephant in the room.
Yeah, COVID is a reason. I'm not denying that, okay? But COVID isn't the only reason. And Japan is notoriously mobile gaming, you know?
Yeah.
That is the big thing. And the Switch has been kicking everyone's backside when it comes to that.
But immersion is the point of the day.
Yeah. The other thing about immersion, the other way to get immersion, and I'm surprised that this wasn't a launch thing, is virtual reality.
Yeah, let's talk about the stories first.
Yeah, let's talk about story first before we get to VR. All stories have to have a foundation, yeah? And one of the reasons, if you take take God of War, I'm going to use God of War as an example because I think God of War was very, very, very well put together when it comes to the story, right? And the reason why it was very well put together is because you had multiple God of War games before then. So everyone is familiar with the character of Kratos. Everyone knows about...
I wouldn't go as far as everyone, you know, but...
No, when I say familiar, I mean they know of him, okay? They know that he's an angry guy who went around killing gods in order to avenge his family for whatever reason, right?
That was the first game. I don't know how he justifies like the other 6 that he did, but, you know, he was an angry guy.
Look, yeah, he was just a very angry guy. And all I'm saying is Kratos went from being like Ben Stiller in Mystery Men in the first game to, you know, because that was Ben Stiller's power in Mystery Men. He just got really angry.
I imagine it was differently played out in that war.
Yeah, he just looked like he was waiting for the toilet and things to happen. But anyway, moving on from that awful joke of mine, Kratos went from Mr. Angry to Dad Mode, right? And in the latest God of War. But the reason why that worked, because God of War, right? Let me give you a scenario. Imagine the new God of War game, but without any of the old games.
Yeah, I mean, that's an aspect to it. You've got that sort of history with the character. But I think also within the canon of that singular game,
Yeah,
it's the story isn't just let's go there and beat the bad guy and then we save the day.
yeah,
The story had layers and levels, and much of the story was in between the big events. It was getting to know the characters and who they are,
yeah.
and that
But
you get into a story when you feel like the characters mean something.
yeah, but the thing is, there has to be something. There has to be a starting point. There has to be the starting point for any story is world building, right? And this is why I brought up the original God of War games, because all of that world building for God of War, a lot of it was done in those original games. So people already knew of Kratos. So when it comes to the new God of War game, you have another recognizable setting. In this case, you have the Asgardian, the Asgardian gods. You have snow and ice, and you have all of that setting. So it's somewhere up north. It's like the Assassin's Creed game.
Yeah, somewhere up north. It's not like, I don't know, Liverpool or something.
No, it's not. God of War in Liverpool would be very interesting.
Yeah.
It's like the new Assassin's Creed games, right? They've gone from whatever Assassin's Creed was trying to be, and then did Assassin's Creed Origins and Assassin's Creed Odyssey. One set in ancient Egypt and another one set in ancient Greece. And
yes.
Both of them are extremely recognizable environments that most people will learn a little bit about in school. So you don't need to do much world building on that front. You can basically just introduce your characters into that world.
Yeah, I mean, you feel immersed because you know the world. You feel like it's something that you know of. It's something that you can relate to, even if it's through history books or old films.
Yeah. But then you look at something like Dark Souls, where the world is introduced to you through bits and bobs of notes and bits of lore that you find and stuff like that. Yeah. But it's a very alien world. You're not familiar with it at all.
I'm not a fan of those games, but the one thing I will always explain them as is it's a very immersive experience because you've got to throw yourself into it.
Yeah.
To get anything from it, and that's the very definition of immersion.
Yeah. And the thing is, if you throw yourself into a game like Dark Souls willingly, then there is a lot to get out of it.
Oh, of course, yeah.
But it's basically a leap of faith when it comes to a game like that.
Yeah, I mean, jumping at it from the other end of the gaming spectrum, the most immersive game that I played this past generation was one which nobody's talked about, and I think it's a bit of a crime on that one, but Mutazione, I've mentioned it quite a lot on this channel. The thing which works for that is it's not a world that we know. It's similar to the world that we know, but it's slightly off. But the thing that really works is it explains everything. It gets you in the headspace of the characters. It explains who the characters are, what their experiences are, and plays out a story within that. So you feel not like you're just some avatar mindlessly wandering. You feel like you are this character. I can't remember her name because it's been a while since I played it. But yeah, it affected me more than any game this generation because I felt like I was part of it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, you called it swamp opera, which I agree with.
Well, no, that's what they described it as.
Is that what they described it as?
Yeah, that's their tagline, swamp opera, and I loved it. And I do. If you haven't played it, and I have footage of it now, please do give it a try because it's one of these indie games which just hasn't had the fair shout.
Yeah, I mean, there are games like that, though, where they tell a story with, in a ridiculously minimalist way. And look at Gone Home, for example.
Yeah.
Like, Gone Home was telling a story, but it was doing so in kind of the Dark Souls way, where it was introducing you to bits of the story at a time, but you had to figure out what was going on yourself. And
it credits you with something.
Yeah. You're rewarded with more of the story. That's your reward for basically doing this exploration and going through these puzzles or fighting these monsters, whatever. You don't fight monsters in Gone Home.
Go back to the core concept. You don't need... A controller wouldn't make any of these experiences more immersive.
No, it wouldn't.
Haptics, better triggers wouldn't make this experience anything.
Right. Do you know the whole thing about the tension with the bow, right? That whole bit of their marketing.
Also, before you say that, I reckon the controllers won't last anywhere near as long because of it.
No, they won't. I mean, people have already said that if you have everything going on Astro's Playroom, then the controller battery is drained ridiculously fast.
No, I don't mean that. I mean mechanically.
Mechanically, no. More moving parts means it'll more things to fill. But talking about the bore tension, things like that, right? Here's a question for you. Who cares?
Oh, teacher's going off script.
Yeah, I am going off script because there is a point to be made here, right? There are only certain things, there is only certain scenarios where the tension of the bore would actually matter in a game, right?
Well, the other example is when you're climbing as a monkey in Astro, it feels like there's a tension between you and the wall and the triggers.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Fine.
You know.
That's fine.
It's not like millions of circumstances where this thing can be sort of trot out.
Yeah, but my question is that like exercising your fingers? Are you going to end up with fingers that look like biceps or whatever?
But then again, it goes back to that core point of people who have accessibility issues. They can't play this stuff.
Do you see what I mean? Right. But
so how immersive is it for them, you know?
Right. The whole thing with the tension in the ball, though, you can feel the rock face and stuff like that, creating tension that way. And you had that already on the PlayStation 4.
I don't particularly want that sort of tension. I just want to get on with it.
Yeah, but the thing is, that tension with the ball is the thing that annoys me the most, right? Because that, right? Imagine you're in a game, you're using a bow, you're firing arrows, blah blah blah, right? You're doing your best Legolas impression from Lord of the Rings, yeah? Or Kevin Costner in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. There you go. On the Wii, right? They had a game called Link's Crossbow Training.
I remember that, yeah.
Right. It was a bullshit game, yeah? And all it was basically using the Wiimote to basically pull the ball back and let the ball go, yeah? See the action I'm making, but you actually made that action.
He was punching the mic, he meant that action so much he punched the mic.
Yeah. You made the ball pulling action with the Wiimote and you let go and you did it again. Yeah? That was one of the things that you had. I mean, it was in Wii Sports. I think it was in, was it Wii Sports Resort or Wii Sports where you had the archery game?
Yeah, it was tennis and bowling, and that felt very immersive, I'll be honest.
Yeah, because
doing
you actually
those actions,
yeah. You actually had to stand up and do the actions, right? That was immersion. Now, when you're talking about these triggers that you can feel the tension of the ball, I would only want to feel the tension of a ball at key moments, say in Tomb Raider, when Lara's about to fire her first arrow at someone's skull and skewer it, and she's having second thoughts. That's when the tension would matter. That's when the trigger the trigger, in order to absorb you in the story, the trigger should feel heavier than normal.
Here's the too long didn't read version of what he's been saying here before we jump into VR. The more you use something, the less effective it is, less meaning it has.
Yeah. If you use it as part of the storytelling, then it can be very, very effective. But if you use it all the time, then it becomes a non-entity.
An annoying thing which just drains your battery quicker.
Yeah. And I turn off a lot of the haptics because I don't need them.
So VR.
Yeah. See, this is where I get puzzled. The PlayStation 5 and the Series X both are amazing consoles that have amazing power. So why didn't they go with VR?
Well, Microsoft have outright said they don't see, I can't remember the terms, but Phil Spencer said he doesn't see anything in the future where they're going to be doing it. But then again, they don't announce everything which they're going to do. They're kind of very coy when it comes to announcing things, games people.
Yeah.
But PlayStation have all but confirmed there's going to be a new VR without confirming there's going to be a new VR.
I would have made VR a key thing, because VR, like it or not, regardless of what anyone says, VR is the future.
Yes, it is.
There is going to come a time when we won't have consoles.
No.
We will all have PCs, and people will want something different, and that difference will be VR.
Here's the thing, I mean, TVs have always been what people watch movies, TV, whatever on.
Yeah.
Games, yeah, they become more mobile, and the way for them to stay mobile and keep a screen.
Yeah.
What is it? It's VR.
Yeah. VR and AR, augmented reality as well, is another aspect of it.
I found AR kind of cheap, honestly, but, you know, VR, I'm saying cheap not as in sort of technically cheap or financially cheap, it's just, I found it kind of tacky. Yeah, tacky's a better word, yeah.
Yeah. Rather than spending all that money on making the controller have all these haptics and stuff like that, I would have said, okay, this money here, The controller is fine as it is. We can just leave the controller as it is. We just basically redesign it. There you go. Job done.
Redesign it, make the battery bigger, do a little few quality of life things, and that'd be fine.
And that would have been fine. The rest of that money, put it towards VR development. Because at the end of the day, if a company like Sony takes the lead on VR development, right, for consoles, Microsoft will have to run and catch up.
Yeah, PSVR was a trial run.
Yeah.
And I think they made the money back, or they made some money from it. And there were some interesting experiences, and there's companies who do exclusive things in VR, and people swear by it and love it.
Do you know what it is?
From that basis,
you
don't just drop it.
See,
I don't think they're going to, but they have to pick up that baton, because as we've said in the previous episode, the problem with VR isn't VR. The problem with VR is their experiences, and the way to really make VR mainstream, which I don't think it's a million miles away from, but the way to really make VR mainstream is to put games.
Yeah. At the moment, there are like 4 or 5 actual VR headsets, and by actual VR headsets, I mean these are proper VR headsets. They're not glorified goggles that you slot a phone into.
Okay, I'm going to make a comment before he goes into this. You know what it needs?
Games.
No, the porn industry.
Yes, okay. We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, that's a very leading topic, isn't it?
Yeah,
just leave that hanging.
Don't say stuff like that after you said porn.
No, that's exactly the word I'm going to use. I'm going to leave it hanging right there, right on the table. For everybody to see, and there's your aunt over there, and you both look at it, and you share a glance, and it's awkward, and you don't know where to look.
I can't take him anywhere.
So you're going to say anyway.
Moving away from your hanging thing, there are 5 VR headsets that are actual proper VR and not glorified goggles that you slot your phone into. And that's you've got the Oculus Quest and the Oculus Quest 2. You got the PlayStation VR, right? You got the Oculus Rift S and the HTC Vive, right? Or the Vive Cosmos, I think it is. But anyway, the PSVR had some interesting stuff on it. The Oculus, on the other hand, is like the leading brand when it comes to VR.
That's the one that Facebook owns, isn't it?
I think Facebook own them, yeah.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, right? I've tried the Oculus, and yeah, okay, there are experiences on there, but you know what? There are also some proper games on there.
Yeah.
And I think that's
Half-Life Alyx was the big one, wasn't it?
Yeah, Half-Life Alyx was the big one. On the PSVR, they had a lot of experiences and some proper games. I mean, Eve tried doing Valkyrie on there, which was, it was okay.
Was it Planetscape that was on there? It was some very serious anal space flight thing where you had to be technical, proper space flight, like a space flight simulator.
See, this is the thing, for flight simulators and stuff like that, and I'm amazed that hasn't been the case, right? Because the first time I tried VR was actually on a flight simulator.
Yeah, that is kind of a VR, isn't it? Yeah.
That was literally the first time I tried VR, and that was back in the 90s when I was at university in the early 90s.
Yeah, let's loop 2 points around. I think the reason why I brought up porn is because they basically make burgeoning technologies work.
You're choosing your words carefully here, aren't you?
Yeah, the Blu-ray became the winning format because porn chose it.
Yeah. Well, let's put it this way.
There's other examples too.
Most of your technology that you're using on the internet, whether it's something like Microsoft
video
Teams
streaming,
video streaming like YouTube, you're having an online meeting with video chat, you're text messaging someone, you're messaging someone using Facebook or something like that. Most of those technologies had their origins in the porn industry. And all I'm saying is that it's the same with something like VR. VR is already being used in the porn industry.
Yeah, it's just not quite there yet, I guess. It's not mainstream. But my point was, the reason why I think they put so much stock, PlayStation, they put so much stock in the controller is because it's an easier bet, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everybody gets a controller,
Yeah.
Whereas a VR kit is a secondary piece of equipment.
See,
however, it's the only way really forward for these consoles.
It is.
You got faster load times, that's fine. You get ray tracing, that's fine. 60 frames a second or 120 frames a second, that's fine. But fundamentally, the games are the same.
Yeah.
Just load quicker and look nicer and run faster. But they're all the same. To be truly next generation and to be truly immersive, to get back to that point, which we've kind of just got away from, VR is the future.
Well, let's put it this way, right?
What way to be invested in the world and to literally be in it?
Yeah, if you take a step away from the experiences and you look at games that are actually out for VR, stuff like Beat Saber. Beat Saber is an actual game, yeah?
Yeah.
It's not a brilliant game, I would say, but people love it because it's basically lightsabers and music. Stuff like Beat Saber, Half-Life Alyx, like you said, is an actual game. Skyrim has a VR version.
Yes. So does Star Wars Darth Vader thing.
Yeah, Star Trek has their bridge crew, which was interesting, I suppose. If you want to be Star Trek bridge crew, which I've never really wanted to be. Wasn't there a VR Resident Evil version?
Well, that's number 7, yeah.
Which I think that got a lot of plaudits for being like far scarier than actually playing Resident Evil on a console.
Because you're in it, aren't you? You're totally in there. It was like a big thing that sold PSVR to a lot of people.
And there's an angle for VR straight away, is horror.
Horror is like porn and horror. They're innovators.
Yeah.
I don't know about them together. Horror porn, that's a totally different thing altogether.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, horror is one of those things that's difficult to do in a video game. But as soon as you introduce VR and as soon as you put yourself in that environment, that's a different game, isn't it? That's a different ballgame.
If immersion is really what the video game industry is going for,
yeah.
Accessibility is one of the things. That's what Xbox is going for with the Games Pass and you being able to play games on your phone with a little thing, a little extra.
Yeah.
That's accessibility.
Yeah.
But Sony are all about immersion. They're all about console generation. So the idea of being immersive and putting all of the stock into a gimmicky controller,
yeah,
it's just selling themselves short. They're really selling themselves short, I think.
It doesn't make sense to me, and I wish that they had focused. I wish that they had basically had more faith in what they've got, because they are a competitor when it comes to VR.
That's Sony to a T, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Look at the handheld division.
I mean, the PS Vita. I will say this, right? I will say this till I'm blue in the face, until my dying day. PS Vita was such a wasted opportunity, and it was because Sony had to use that stupid proprietary memory card. If they'd just gone with a standard SD card, the PS Vita would have been the handheld console of choice, because it was so much more powerful than the Nintendo DS and even the 3DS.
It was basically like a PS3, wasn't it? A portable PlayStation 3.
Yeah.
Scaled back in a few ways, but yeah.
And now in my brain I've got, what was it, Alfred Molina in Spider-Man 2 going, the power of a PS3 in the palm of my hand.
Yeah. But immersion is an interesting thing. I mean, these conversations at Sony you've got to have. These are conversations that we've got to have. I'm not going to say that PlayStation are making bad games. Far from it. They make some of the finest experiences in the AAA space that are out there.
Yeah, when you talk about the story-based games, there are some amazing games that Sony have made, especially in the last couple of years. I mentioned God of War, and rightly so. God of War deserves the plaudits it gets for the storytelling. But I mean, hell, Last of Us 2, whether you like it or not, Last of Us 2 is immersive for a lot of people because it's a familiar environment. And I think Sony needs to concentrate on those aspects when it wants immersion. I think gimmicks won't work in the long run.
Yeah, because that's the thing. It's the new car smell, isn't it? What people are going through right now. It's like, oh my god, this new controller. This is such a nice smelling car. I love this. I love the smell of this new leather wallet. This is amazing. But 6 months down the line, when it's that sheen has worn off and it's a day-to-day device, are those secondary features going to be helping you get more invested in the game? Are they going to help you whatever, or are they just going to be a hindrance? And most to the point, are the companies actually going to be invested in it because it's a weird tech that they've got to cater to?
There's a case in point for the PlayStation 4, right?
The PlayStation 3 had 6-axis. How many people actually use that?
PlayStation 4 had the touchpad. How many people use that?
Well, it was the map button, basically, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's all it ended up as. The touchpad, that touchpad could do so much, but it was just basically press it for the map. That's it.
So we say this from a place of love, but at the end of the day, it's just kind of a weird generation this year for Sony, so we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. It's literally within the first few weeks of release, so it's early days, very early days.
It is, and, you know, we're not speaking out of turn, we're speaking out of concern, because this is a story that goes back to the PS3, like you said, with the 6-axis, and to the PS4 with the touchpad. Sony do something that looks amazing right at the beginning, and everyone's so hyped up about it, but then within a few months, it's irrelevant.
Yeah.
People don't pay attention to it anymore, and nobody caters to that.
Honestly, I think Naughty Dog might be one of the only ones who actually bother with it.
Yeah. Do you know the 6-axis on the PS3? Do you know the only time I ever saw the 6-axis working in a game was in Little Big Planet, controlling the direction that Sackboy looks?
I only remember using it in Ratchet and Clank and Uncharted 1.
Yeah. I only remember it from Little Big Planet, and you could control the direction that Sackboy was looking, and that's all.
And I didn't think that the 6-axis balancing thing was immersive. I just thought it was kind of frustrating and annoying.
Yeah. The touchpad, I only remember using it in Tearaway.
I only remember using it when I figured out that I could type, and it's quicker. And that's it.
Yeah.
Not Immersion.
So, you know, having all these gimmicks on a controller, most people will forget about them. Most people, it will become irrelevant to them.
Once the new car smell runs out, it's back to just using it as a proper controller, I think.
I like the new car smell idea because one of the things that I've seen a lot of people do when they buy a new car is play with, you know, the stereo and the touchpad and everything like that. They'll go through all sorts of things, but then after a couple of weeks, they'll have it on like Smooth FM or something like that, or whatever station they listen to the most. They won't touch it ever again.
Yeah.
It'll be on there, and that will be it. They won't mess around with it. It will just stay on that station forever.
That's what people do. Comfort and ease is much more important than fiddly diddly.
Yeah.
And on that great tagline to end an episode,
yeah,
I think we have to call this one a day.
Let us know what you think about the new PlayStation 5 controller, what you think about Immersion, and what you think about the future of VR. Is it the future? Are our better told stories the future? Where is the future, in fact? Leave us a comment. Tell us your thoughts. We're always interested. If you liked the video, then give us a thumb, a sub, or a bell. And if you want to see more videos like this, then please support us on Patreon. The details are in the description.
And yes, and that's all from Impossible Mission this week. Join us every Thursday for more video game chit-chats. Until next time, thanks for watching.